After Ford and GM announced that they were going with Tesla's North American charging standard, now fast charging companies themselves are starting to fall in line. The dominoes really are falling. Plus, could Costco become the ultimate brick and mortar car dealership in the future? Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. First of all, I want to point out yet another new shirt that we have at the merch store. It says, "Where we are going, we don't need paint." Very Back to the Future sort of theme. Since the Cybertruck kind of looks like a DeLorean anyway, why not? It was a pretty cool idea, so thanks to Dan for that and for sending me the shirts. And I have one more to show to you all in the near future. And of course, if you want to get your own, just check out the link in the description. All right, so on to the supercharging NACS news. If you haven't heard about it before, and I did videos on this, so you can check them out up here if you're interested. But if you haven't heard about it, Ford and GM got behind Tesla's North American charging standard, which of course is the skinny Tesla plug that you can plug into your Tesla. And Ford and GM vehicles in the future will be building those in that way. And in the meantime, they'll put in adapters for people who've already purchased their cars with the CCS standard, which is a pretty lame standard, honestly. And of course, following this, I predicted that supercharging networks were going to have to change rapidly in North America in order to keep up, because who is going to want to use CCS only based charging places when they have the option to go with NACS instead. So the first of the charging companies that went was actually ABB Electronics, and I don't believe they have charging networks themselves, but they build the back end for a lot of charging networks. And they said that they were going to support the NACS standard. That is actually huge because they are a really big player, even though you probably haven't heard of them. I actually hadn't either, but Scott Walter actually had, and he pointed that out to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the people who are pulling the strings in the back are moving that direction. Anyway, almost immediately after that, two charging networks, EverCharge and EVGo, have said that they are going to be supporting the NACS standard. Don't know whether that means it's going to be supporting the CCS and them still, or whether they're going to move entirely that direction. But it is really interesting to see this happen. Of course, Electrify America has not done this yet. They are very, very tightly bound up with Volkswagen. So I have a feeling that if we see one of those two entities, either VW or Electrify America, go NACS, the other will follow suit very quickly. They might actually make the announcement at the same time. But neither of them has done that yet, but the odds are very strong that they will have to do that relatively soon. As for the EverCharge announcement, let's take a look at this Teslarati article from a couple of days ago. In a recent announcement, EV charging hardware and software provider EverCharge announced that it would be fully supporting Tesla's North American charging standard, NACS, in its entire network. The company will join auto giants Ford and General Motors and fellow EV charger provider ABB E-Mobility as part of the growing Tesla NACS family. In a blog post, EverCharge stated that the combined charging system, or CCS standard, is not really the best. It's clunky and its performance could be better. EverCharge noted that Tesla's charging system is simply better, partly due to its simplicity, ease of use, and overall performance. So if you want a damning statement about how bad CCS is, the very people that use it say it sucks. And then yesterday on Twitter, Warren Redlick alerted me to the fact that EVGo is also supporting the NACS standard going forward. And of course, as both of us say, CCS is dying fast, and good riddance to it. The announcement says EVGo will be adding North American charging standard connections to its fast charging network across the country. Read the press release, and I'll leave a link to that, of course, in the description. So this one is explicit, saying that they are adding this standard, but I have a feeling that the CCS is going to have to eventually be updated. Like all the ones that currently support that are probably going to be changed out over time. So as I said previously, VW and Electrify America are the two big holdouts in North America, and yes, Stellantis, Toyota, etc. But as far as really moving the needle and making sure that CCS is well and truly dead, if EA and Volkswagen announce that they are going to support NACS as well, that's the end of it. Who is the other big holdout for CCS? Well, it's the United States government, and the US government had better start reading the room and figure out that CCS is dead, and they should at least support NACS as well as CCS. Currently, they only support CCS for the subsidies that they give to companies to build out more superchargers, but they really do need to revisit that and allow NACS as well, and then let the market decide between the two of them, because the market will clearly go to the better solution. But anyway, it's really amazing to see everybody fall in line so quickly. Months and months ago, I did a video, you can find it here, where I said that the United States, Canada, Mexico, Central America, etc., etc., need to adopt the NACS standard because it's quite simply the more elegant, better, more efficient charging standard than the CCS standard, which was clearly designed by committee and is a complete mess. But I thought that at the time that there was very little chance that that was going to happen, even though Tesla had open sourced it and made it into a standard. So again, if a company wants to use this, they don't have to pay a royalty to Tesla or anything. Now, if they want to use their APIs and use their superchargers, then yes, there will be some monetary benefit to Tesla from that. But if they just want to use the plug shape and they want to use the receptacle in the car, they can do that free of charge because it is a standard. It's the North American charging standard. So that was a fantastic move on Tesla's part. I didn't think it was actually going to make these companies actually change, but it's amazing to see that it's actually happening. And I'm so excited to see that the better engineering standard is for once going to win out. And as I said, the US government just has to get behind this and help to push. The market is already deciding very rapidly that NACS is the better standard, and the US government needs to support that and make it happen faster. And now on to the second topic, which is what is going to become of car dealerships in the future. This is actually inspired by one of my Patreon patrons, Dean. This came out of a conversation we were having online on Discord. Really, really interesting. I was like, oh yeah, what a good idea. Anyway, what he talked about was, he said, look how when Amazon came in and disrupted brick and mortar retail, how Target and Walmart survived and are doing, very well. Target has a whole thing going on right now, but that's separate from the transition from brick and mortar to online. But by the same token, Best Buy did not do very well in the transition. And what is the difference? So the difference is places like Walmart and Target, first of all, they generally focus on less expensive items. They focus on daily need type of items, things that you're like food and stuff, right? You have to go get food on a daily or weekly basis. You can't survive without that. But also things that are relatively inexpensive, clothing items, relatively inexpensive electronics, and on and on and on. So it's the kind of thing where people appreciate the convenience of going in and shopping in person, especially things like clothes. It's very difficult to buy clothes online. My wife does that all the time, and she's constantly returning things because they don't fit and all of that. And I just generally don't even buy clothes online unless it's like a pair of shoes, and I've already had that exact pair of shoes before, and I know it fits perfectly. But, even though I fit sizes relatively well, except for something like a t-shirt where I'm just like a medium and it's whatever. But for the most part, I like to purchase clothes in person so I can try them on. So anyway, that's the sort of realm that Target and Walmart are doing very well in. And clearly they have an online presence as well, but they also have a very, very large brick and mortar presence, and they do well because of the nature of what they sell and how they sell it. So what happened to Best Buy that's different from those two is that Best Buy used to depend on physical media sales of things like movies and CDs and things like that in order to bring people into the store and to make relatively low-cost purchases. So somebody would come in and buy a $20 CD or a $30 DVD. Then they might go look at cameras or something, or buy some cables or things like that. So that was how Best Buy got their foot traffic. The problem with that is that people have gone completely off of physical media. It's like, when was the last time you bought a DVD or a CD? It's like, I'd have to think back a long ways to think about purchasing a physical item like that. And so when they lost that low-cost foot traffic entryway, they then had to go to a different model, which is upselling people. So you come in to buy a less frequent item like a computer or a phone or an expensive camera, point and shoot or SLR or something like that. And their model now is to upsell you. So they work on more of a car dealership sort of model, right? So a car dealership, you come in to buy a car, the sticker price is $25,000. But before you walk out the door, they've tacked on nitrogen filling up your tires and extra cup holders and some sort of underbody coating shield and some sort of extra, thing that they've added, whatever it is. They add on all these things, and suddenly you've paid an extra $4,000 or $5,000 for stuff that you really didn't need. And you also feel bad because you feel like you've been beat up, or people use other analogies instead of that. But at any rate, it's a bad experience, and you feel like you've been taken advantage of. And in a small way, even though the expense isn't that much, you feel that way when you go into a place like Best Buy and they talk you into these service plans and all of this other stuff that you didn't need. And you're like, oh gosh, I just, I got screwed. I paid an extra couple $100 on this laptop that I didn't need to do. It's that sort of icky experience you have with a current car dealer. And of course, car dealers do it on steroids because you don't even know what the price of the thing is. At least when you go in to buy a laptop, the laptop is $999.99, and you know that that price isn't going to shift around. The problem is that you have to avoid paying for all the extras that they want to give you. But when you walk into a car dealership, whatever is on the car itself is not the actual price that you're going to be able to negotiate. So it's really annoying to do something like that. So this got me thinking about car dealerships of the future. So clearly Tesla and Rivian and Lucid have one way of doing it, which is just direct to consumers. They do have showrooms where you can go in and you can test drive the car and so forth. But Tesla owns their Tesla vehicle until the day you buy it. There is another potential model, and I think Costco would be a perfect exemplar of how this might work. And quite frankly, they already do this in a small way. If you go to a Costco, if you are a Costco member, and you go a lot of times out in the front of the store or someplace like that, they have one particular vehicle that they have a kind of special on or something along those lines. And it's like Toyota RAV4, and you can buy it this month for such and such a price, and you can go through Costco to get it. And it's, that's nice, whatever. But what I'm thinking is that a company like Costco, again, it doesn't have to be Costco, but a place that sells a lot of less expensive items, but also sells more high-end items as well. And thus the consumers who are there are willing to look at more expensive things as well as less expensive things. What they can do is they can put a showroom attached to that and have at least a few models that they have available, and then some test drive vehicles that people have there, and they can function as a car dealership, but not a car dealership in the traditional sense of like all this haggling and you don't know what the price is and all of that kind of stuff. But it's like, here's the price of the vehicle. It's $24,999. It's non-negotiable. They don't try to talk you into the extra garbage that you don't need, right? They don't have all those option packages and all that stuff. So you're like, okay, that's the price. That's what I'm going to get. I can sit down with a person, do financing in a few minutes, and I can get this vehicle. And likely, of course, the vehicle would not actually be on the lot. What they would do is kind of just-in-time ordering. So they would get a block of orders and then they would order it, and you would get your car in a week or two, something along those lines, right? So it would be a quasi-dealership, but also a quasi showroom. So it doesn't have a giant parking lot full of vehicles. They would just order them as people ordered the car from them. And of course, the big advantage that they would have is, number one, they've got foot traffic, not just for vehicles. So you go into the store every week or so to purchase your groceries, and every time you go in, you see a selection of cars as you walk in through the main entrance, and you're like, after a period of time, you're like, oh, those are cool cars, whatever. And so you look at them, you spend some time looking at the specs, things like that. And the next time you want to make a car purchase, then you think of Costco first. A car dealership doesn't have that foot traffic. You only go to a car dealership when you want a car. They do attempt to put themselves on big, busy roads, so at least you have to pass by and pay attention to them as you're driving by, but that's not the same thing. And this is exactly why companies like Target and Walmart have done okay in the transition to online retail, is that they attract people in with relatively low cost items, but then they can sell them more expensive things at the same time because they have a variety of items there. And Costco, again, you can buy groceries, you can buy the shed that we put in our backyard this summer. There's all kinds of variety of things that Costco sells. And if they had cars there too, and they don't have to have a ton of models, but maybe they just have like 10 models that they think are going to be best sellers. And that's what they show people as they walk into the store, and people can look at them. And then when they want to purchase them, they help them with the financing. They get the banking situation all worked out, all of that kind of stuff. And then the person gets the car, they come back to the Costco in a week or two, and they pick up the vehicle that they want. And there's no price haggling. There's none of this adding on extra things and having talked to the finance guy and the manager and all of this kind of stuff and spending like 4 hours in a car dealership, just feeling like, think people are doing really, really bad things to you without your permission. So as a speculative guess, I would guess that this would be a good competitor to completely online purchasing and to the direct-to-consumer model. Something like that could work, and a lot of legacy autos should really start thinking about that. And quite frankly, companies like Costco should think about this, because of course, if they're selling cars like this, they're purchasing it and they're making whatever profit they make, and they don't have to make a ton because it's not their main business model. So even if they only make $1,000 or $2,000 per car, it's a set fee, right? They don't have to worry about it. They're not haggling. They're not getting the end of the month quotas and all of this kind of stuff, because they're just doing just-in-time ordering. So they don't have to care about the stock that they have. They don't have to care about getting rid of that. They just work out a deal where they buy the car in bulk as a national thing. And they're like, we want to sell the Toyota RAV4 in our stores with these options for this amount of money, and they get Toyota to agree with it, and then they just order from them as they need to and distribute it to whichever Costco's are in the vicinity that they need those cars to go to. So that seems like a pretty good alternative. You can come in, you see the car over and over and over again as you're shopping and stuff. So you automatically get people who are looking at the car. You have people there who are knowledgeable in case they have questions, things like that. Again, it's sort of like they have their whole phone section and computer section and stuff where you can go in and you can talk to people about those things if you have questions, but you also don't have to purchase them at that given time. You can come back later. But then when you're ready to make the purchase, you know exactly what the price is. You have help with financing. It's taken care of very, very quickly and efficiently, and there's none of this haggling. And you can quite frankly, sign some documents and stuff and have them work on the loan while you go grocery shopping for a half hour or 45 minutes, come back at the end of the thing, and they give you the financing terms and you sign off on it and you're good to go. And if you think Costco doesn't already do this, I purchased these glasses from Costco and my sunglasses and the last pair of glasses and things. So it's very convenient, right? You go in, you have your eye exam, they work on the frames and things like that, and then they order it out. They bring it in when it's done from another place. So you don't pick it up. It's not like 1 hour eyeglasses, but it's the kind of thing where you just pick it up a week later or whatever, but it's convenient because there's a Costco near you. So in my mind, they and legacy auto manufacturers should at least consider this type of model. It would make it much easier for the consumer. It would still be effectively a dealership model, so they would get around a lot of the local laws in the United States where many, many states don't allow direct to consumer sales, but it would be on a basis that would make the consumer feel good about it. It would cost the consumer ultimately less money because they're not paying for all these add-ons and they're not having to haggle, and they are very efficient at doing it. And perhaps most importantly, they don't have to have a giant parking lot full of cars. They can just have one sort of demo model of each of the things that they're selling so people can test drive it. So that's my and Dean's thoughts on the subject. What do you think? Do you think the dealerships are just completely out of it and there will only be direct to consumers in the future? Or do you think a model like this, a sort of future car dealership model, might be the way to go? And if it is, do you think a company like Costco is the perfect one to do it? Or is there somebody else? Is Walmart perhaps better suited for this? In my mind, I don't think that they are, but I'm certainly happy to listen to arguments for and against that, and other companies as well. So definitely let me know in the comments what you think about all this, and of course about the charging standards and things like that. And of course, while you're down there, please do like the video so other people can find it, and consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon, my YouTube channel members, and my Twitter subscribers. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel and all of my activity in any way that you can. I truly do appreciate it. And if you want to join any of them, just check out the links in the description. And if you're interested in a whole bunch of really cool merch, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. We have TeslaBot t-shirts, the Tesla meme t-shirt, Success is a Possible Outcome, 4680 battery cells. All of that stuff is on t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, and on and on. So check it out. And finally, don't forget we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how going shopping for a new Tesla, a solar roof, a power wall, or anything on Amazon helps out the channel. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.